welcome. And welcome you specifically. We're doing something a bit different today, really focusing in.
Yes, we're taking a close look, a real deep dive into session 39 of the Law of One material.
Exactly. The raw material. Think of this as your personal journey through it, question by question. We've heard you, and you wanted this session unpacked.
It's a request we're happy to fulfill. This session has some really profound concepts, but also some very practical, grounded points, too.
Right. So our mission here is, well, to explore it together in a way that's insightful, engaging, hopefully beautiful, and definitely positive. It's all about understanding this specific piece of the Law of One for your learning.
And remember, for you listening, the core idea here is this vast interconnectedness, this oneness across different levels or densities of existence. And session 39 touches on that from various angles.
Absolutely. We'll be looking at things like the instrument's health, planning future sessions, the nature of energy, both electrical and, well, what Ra calls metaphysical energy.
Which is fascinating. And then there's that coded principle CH, the meaning of the nine, and the evolution of our own energy centers, the chakras or rays.
Yeah, lots of potential aha moments, I think, and maybe a few things you weren't expecting. So, shall we just jump in? Question one.
Let's do it. The session starts right off with a concern for Carla, the instrument. Question 39.1 asks if her fragile feeling is connected to something she ingested like 6 weeks before.
And Ray immediately confirms it. But it's more than just that one time, isn't it? They say it's the doubling effects of two ingestions.
Exactly. Two incidents compounding each other. And the impact sounds pretty significant. Rel mentions 15 to 20 diurnal cycles, so days, of intensive physical debilitation. That's quite a long stretch.
15 to 20 days. Wow. And they also note her recovery might be slower than expected because of some underlying weakness already there.
Precisely. It shows how these things can stack up, you know?
Mm.
Past issues influencing present recovery. It's a very holistic view of health.
And it brings up the importance of the support group around her. Ray points out she's very fortunate to have them.
Extremely. Especially their caution about scheduling the sessions. It underlines how vital that grounded support system is when you're dealing with this kind of intense, energetic work.
Yeah, and Ra makes an interesting point about Carla herself. She's good at clearing the mental and emotional stuff for the contact,
Back to keeping the channel cleared.
but maybe less aware of her own physical limits because she's so dedicated to the service aspect.
That's exactly it. A kind of fidelity to service that might overshadow physical self-assessment. It's something many dedicated people might relate to, I think.
True, and Ra actually validates the group's decision to skip a recent session because of her condition. They said it was the appropriate decision.
Yeah, affirming the group's judgment and care. It shows that collaborative dynamic was really working.
Okay, so moving to the second question, 39.2. The questioner asks if there's anything else they can do to help her, mentioning a foot problem that's stopping her from exercising.
And Rose's answer here introduces, well, a different layer. They suggest negative entities are actively trying to hinder the instrument and are the cause of the foot issue.
Whoa. Okay, so that adds a whole dimension of like energetic interference or challenge.
It certainly suggests that engaging deeply with this material might attract opposition, or at least requires awareness of potential interference from less than positive forces.
That's sobering. But there's a positive side to the answer too, right? About music.
Yes, a really beautiful counterpoint. Ross says she'll be greatly involved in the worship of the one infinite creator through the vibratory complexes of sacred song. Even with physical limits, that spiritual connection through sound is powerful.
Music as worship and healing. I like that. Ra then talks more generally about third density life, mentioning exercise and the sexual sense as beneficial.
Right, the general benefits of active physical life in our reality. They do add a nuance, though, noting that the instrument's own ethical views, her distortions, influence the sexual aspect for her.
So our beliefs shape even those physical experiences. That makes sense.
And they also mention the value of loving social intercourse. Positive connections, relationships, basic human warmth and support are highlighted as helpful.
Good reminder. But ultimately, Ra says improvement is mostly.
A matter of time, basically. Patience in the healing process within this density.
Okay. Question 39.3 then shifts gears to logistics. Planning future sessions, frequency, length, based on her condition.
And Ra immediately flags this one. They say the question borders upon infringement.
Hitting that free will boundary again. Don't tell us exactly what to do.
Pretty much. They need to respect the group's discernment and the instrument's free will. Ra explains it's hard for the questioner or even Carla to judge perfectly because her commitment can mask her actual state.
Right, that dedication thing again. But they do offer some general advice, don't they, without infringing.
Yes, a kind of guideline. They suggest one working each alternate diurnal period in the matinal hours. So one session every other morning.
And maybe a shorter one on the off morning if it feels right.
Exactly. And crucially, they say this isn't just for now, while she's weak, but a general guideline for sustainable contact.
Okay, that sets a rhythm. Sensible. Now, question 39.4. This is where it gets really theoretical, right? Non-transient functions. The number 7, a quote from the 9 about electricity and 7 on.
Yeah, Don's really digging into the deep metaphysics here. And Ross starts by saying a full explanation is basically beyond the abilities of your language.
Always a good sign we're heading into deep waters, like
Yeah.
words can only approximate these concepts.
Exactly. But they try. They talk about how each logos, each creative intelligence, sets up complete potentials, both electrical, referencing Larson's work,
Okay.
and metaphysical.
Yeah.
And Ross stresses this metaphysical electricity is just as important as the physical kind for understanding this.
Metaphysical electricity, so energy beyond just electrons and protons.
Sort of. It's about potentiated energy, energy holding potential. They even touch on the physics debate about the electron's mass, saying the true mass is the strength of the field, both physically and metaphysically.
So mass isn't just stuff, it's field intensity. That's a different way of looking at it.
It is. They acknowledge using the electron's mass number is useful for physical science calculations, but the deeper reality is about the energy field. And then they connect this to spiritual evolution.
How so?
They introduce the idea of increasing spiritual mass with each density. Like as we evolve, our metaphysical weight or field strength increases.
But we get spiritually heavier. In a good way.
Kind of. And there's a big jump at the gateway to sixth density, where polarity is integrated. Your spiritual mass, your metaphysical electrical nature really grows then.
Okay, wow. And they use an analogy.
Yeah. To Einstein's theory of mass increasing as you approach light speed, they liken it to a seventh density being the completed creator, essentially accumulating all that spiritual mass and compacting back into the one.
Mine. Blown, okay. A cycle of expansion and return expressed in terms of mass and energy.
That's a huge concept, which leads right into question 39.5. Don shows an equation, probably Eve's CR, and asks if the man in it refers to this spiritual mass.
And Ross says,
This is correct. Simple confirmation. It suggests these physical laws might have metaphysical parallels.
fascinating. Okay, 39.6 takes us back to the 9. What does CH is a principle, which is the revealing principle of knowledge and law, mean? Sounds very cryptic.
It does sound cryptic, but Rye's interpretation is actually quite profound and relatable, I think.
Okay.
They say it represents the relationship between the constant, the creator, and the transient us, incarnate beings. It's about the yearning between the two, the love and light connection happening amidst all the distortions of free will and illusion.
So CH isn't a thing, it's that dynamic, that pull between source and soul.
That's how Ra explains it. The cosmic longing for reunion playing out in our lives.
That's beautiful, actually. So, question 39.7 asks why it was put so vaguely. Was it because of the first distortion, free will?
Good guess from Don, but Ra says no, this is incorrect.
Straightforward enough. So 39.8 follows up.
Yeah.
Okay, then why was it veiled?
And the answer is almost funny, in a way. Ra just says, the scribe is most interested in puzzles and equations.
Huh. So it was veiled partly because Dawn enjoys figuring things out. The receiver influences the transmission.
Exactly. It highlights that human element, the interaction between the source and the group's own nature and interest.
Which comes up again in 39.9, right? About the 9 calling themselves the 9 principles of God. What does that mean?
Ross says this is also veiled. The 9 who sit upon the council aren't 9 separate gods, but representatives of the one creator.
Like witnesses.
That's the analogy Ra uses,
Yeah.
like 9 witnesses testifying for one defendant. The word principle implies that representative role.
Okay, that makes more sense. And again, the puzzle aspect.
Yes, Ra mentions again that the scribe's Dawn's interest in puzzles shaped how the 9 presented themselves, just as the group's overall focus shapes the contact with Ra.
But Ra makes a distinction about themselves.
They do. They say, we are as we are. Thus we may either speak as we will or not speak at all, implying their nature is fixed, and contact requires a very finely tuned group to receive them accurately.
A higher bar, maybe? More direct, less filtered through personal preferences?
That seems to be the implication. It requires a certain resonance.
Okay, so question 39.9 shifts, again, back to the energy centers. The rays, the chakras, and the link to the number 7. Dawn feels there's something important here.
And Ra agrees, saying they'll enlarge upon what's been said before. They skip repeating the first and second density stuff
Right.
and focus on the key points for third density onwards, starting with red ray.
The foundation. Basic survival grounding. Ross says never look down on it.
Absolutely, it's the base. Then orange, and then yellow ray, the great stepping stone. This is where mind-body balance and third density really gets potentiated.
And that red, orange, yellow triad is like a launch pad.
Exactly. It springs you into green ray, heart chakra, the resource for spiritual work. Basic, Ross says, but the beginning of that outward, compassionate focus.
Green opens the door, and then blue ray.
Blue ray is the next primary one, the first true spiritual ray. This is about integrated mind-body-spirit communication, expressing your whole being, your truth. Learning and teaching of spirit happens here.
Communication and authentic expression. Got it. Then indigo.
Indigo ray, third eye. Ra calls it precious, worked upon by adepts. It's the gateway to intelligent infinity, bringing in intelligent energy. Associated with inner work, hidden teachings, healing, advanced teaching, infinite possibilities.
The adept center. Powerful stuff. And finally, violet ray.
Violet ray, the crown. Ray says it's constant, not really an activation point like the others. It's the mark, the register, the identity, the true vibration of an entity.
Your spiritual fingerprint. Your overall signature based on your journey.
Beautifully put. It's the sum total.
That's a really helpful overview of the ray system evolution. Okay, 39.01 asks a specific question about polarity. Is the red ray different in highly polarized positive versus negative beings? Ra says this is the last full question for the session.
And the answer is quite striking. No difference. There is no difference in equally strongly polarized positive and negative entities as regards red ray.
Wow, so that basic life force, survival drive, it's the same foundation regardless of path.
Apparently so. The divergence must happen higher up the ray system, which leads directly to the next question, 39.1.
Which is basically, is that true for the other rays too?
Right. Rag gives a shorter answer here, suggesting more detail later. But they do give the key difference in the overall pattern.
Okay.
For the negative path, the pattern is red, orange, yellow, jumping directly to blue ray, possibly indigo, skipping green. And this connection is used specifically to contact intelligent infinity for their self-service goals.
Skipping the heart center, that feels significant. And the positive pattern.
Is described as even, crystallinely clear, and of the 7-ray description, meaning all 7 rays are activated, balanced, and working harmoniously. Holistic development versus strategic focus.
That paints a very clear picture. Integrated wholeness versus focused power acquisition.
Exactly. A very different energetic signature.
Okay, so the very last question, 39.13, is just checking in again. Anything more they can do for Carla's comfort or the contact?
And Ra is reassuring. They acknowledge the group's care, their conscientiousness, and simply state, all is well.
A gentle sign-off. They've done what they can. The situation is managed.
Yes. And then Ra gives their closing remarks, leaving them in love and light, encouraging rejoicing in the one Creator's power and peace.
Adonai.
Adonai. A beautiful end to a really packed session.
It really was. We went from, practical health concerns and scheduling right up to the nature of mass, energy, spiritual evolution, and the Creator. It covers so much ground.
It truly shows the breadth of the law of one.
Yeah.
Everything is connected, the physical, the energetic, the metaphysical, the personal, the cosmic.
Yeah, that interconnectedness really shines through. And thinking about those different ray patterns for positive and negative paths, it gives you a lot to chew on regarding spiritual growth, doesn't it?
It does. And that principle Ra described, that CH, the yearning between the Creator and us, the constant and the transient, playing out amidst illusion, that's a powerful image to hold on to.
Definitely. It makes the journey feel less random, more purposeful somehow.
Indeed. So maybe the thought to leave you, our listener, with today is this. How might really contemplating this idea of increasing spiritual mass change how you view your own evolution, your own journey towards, or perhaps as, the Creator?
That's a big one. Thinking of growth not just as learning, but as accumulating a kind of spiritual density or presence. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into session 39. We hope it was insightful for you.
We encourage your continued exploration. Namaste. I am you and you are me.
Until next time.